Good evening. And we use that to say good evening to everyone. It's on the dot of 5 o'clock, so we're going to start right now. We see participants are still coming in, but I think we have to respect the time. And for all of you who joined right on time, it's quite lovely to see you. I'm sure everyone is well, and I hope that you are keeping safe. Good evening again, and you're welcome to TechBiz series. I'm looking at the name scroll here. I can see so many familiar names. Our regulars on TechBiz. This is our 7th series. We hold it every single Thursday at 5 p.m. Nigerian time. So I'm sure the learnings that you've had in the past series continue to help you transform personally, and I indeed hope that it's helping you build your business. I'm Doja Ikeruche. You know me already. I'm a strategist. I'm experienced in marketing, in business management, in growing revenue, and of course, growing profitability while we're at it. And I've spent the last 20 years doing this. I've done this in Nigeria, in Ghana, in South Africa, even as far as Switzerland and the Philippines. If you don't know where the Philippines is, it's in far Southeast Asia. So for me personally, I'm very keen to encourage and to equip others in believing in possibilities and to help you achieve your ambitions. So that's how the TechBiz series came about. So guys, hashtag TechBiz, hashtag Eco-Innovation. Anytime you hear those tidbits, feel free to post on social media. So quick housekeeping rules. We'll request that you mute your mics. As you come into the chat room anyway, your mics will be muted. Please type your questions in the chat box anytime in the course of this conversation. Once it occurs to you, feel free to type it in. You don't need to wait till the Q&A session. So some of the questions that you've raised while you registered, we're going to handle it in the presentation. And the presentation itself will last for 40 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes, I would say, after which we will take your questions. We will read the questions in the chat box, and should you want to ask your question verbally, just raise your hand and we will unmute you and you'll have your time in the sun to ask your questions verbally. Okay, so in the meantime, while the team is trying to put up the presentation, I'll just talk you through what Eco-Innovation does, which in any case is what one of the slides say. And the focus of Eco-Innovation, for those who already know, it is leveraging innovation and technology in solving poverty and its symptoms within Africa. And for us, it's about making sure that we are bringing solutions that are delivering on improving lives. Focus right now in Nigeria, but of course we have the ambition to go across Africa. There are 4 key pillars that Eco-Innovation uses to deliver that. There's learning, and TechBiz series actually is one of the things that, one of the platforms for learning, but we also have more technical schools like that offer data science, that teach how to use data analytics, even power of visualization for reporting and for business decision making. There's also research and sustainability, which is about driving social impact, addressing SDGs, running researches that help businesses to take decisions, and that is another pillar. But 2 key ones that I'd like to talk about is product incubation and business acceleration. So incubation is when you you have an idea and we help you shape that idea into a business, and then you can pilot that business on the way to commercialization. Acceleration is when you already have an MVP, so a minimum viable product, which is you have already run that business, you have piloted in a certain part of the geography, you have had some level of adoption and business income, revenue, and now you want to scale up in order to deliver high impact. That kind of support, of course, Eco-Innovation also delivers. So should you have any such, should you want support from Eco-Innovation, I would encourage you, send an email, info@ecoinnovationhub.com. You could also go to the website, that's ecoicenter.com. And should you want to access our previous webinars, this is the 7th one, which is we've had 6 different ones on key subjects, relevant subjects that help you during this period in particular. We've talked about topics on finance, venture capital, how to access private equity and venture capital. That was the very last one, most interesting teaching us the absolute basics that we need to do in order to access funds and to have bankable projects, bankable businesses. We've also had sessions on IP, how to protect your business, how to protect your data. We've had sessions as well on how to pitch. So there've been quite a number of knowledge, quite a lot of knowledge that is already within the website that you can, of course, access. The presentations are there, the videos are there as well. Feel free to download. So let's talk about what we're going to learn today. Today is going to be quite interesting, and we have a really engaging speaker, I can tell you already. We are talking about the power of planning. So call it business plan, business model, strategic plan. A little bit of differences between the three, but I will still tell you, listen, it's about semantics. Call it what you like. The important thing is that we identify with the Russian proverb that says that it is better to measure 7 times and cut once. So measuring 7 times is equated to planning, thorough planning before you start. Because you know that a dream written down with a date, that becomes a goal. When a goal is broken down into steps, it then becomes a plan. And a plan backed by action will eventually make your dreams come true. So the key thing is plan, plan, and plan again, because you cannot go wrong when you make a thorough plan. Of course, you back it up with execution, but today we're just talking about business planning. So who better today to share this presentation with us but Rita Haidohasi, if I pronounce it correctly. She is a managing consultant, strategy and research lead at Vizon Research Limited. It's Nigeria's leading data mining, market intelligence, and strategy company. It is located in Lagos. She's a Goldman Sachs scholar, which is quite impressive. She's an awardee of You Win Connect and an alumni of Leap Africa with over 10 years experience in research, marketing, and communication. Rita has delivered significant results as head of multiple departments within mainstream business intelligence, e-commerce, science, and journalism organizations. She's also a business advisory consultant at Faith Foundation. She's a member of European Society of Market Researchers and Opinion Polls, and also the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, NIPR. She's a certified strategy and digital marketing expert, and she's widely acclaimed for her data-driven strategies targeted at shaping consumer behavior, boosting purchase, and adding financial value to client profit margins. That is Rita in a nutshell. There's more to her, but that is her in a nutshell, and definitely has the pedigree to take us through today, guiding us on the power of planning and how we build our business plans. Rita, I'm going to hand it over to you. You will take us through your deck for about 30 to 40 minutes, after which it's going to be a conversation with our audience asking questions.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. Hi, everybody who's on the call. It's good to connect with you guys here. Just give me 1 second. Let me quickly pull up the screen and we can start to share. Yeah? Okay. But in the interim, I don't know if Dodger has had the chance to just give you an overview of who I am and what I do. But first things first, I'd like to say thank you to the Echo Innovations team for doing such an incredible job. I think that they've done such an amazing work with putting this together. It's not every day that people get the chance to do something of this nature or to even learn over the internet. And so this is such a good opportunity for us to share information and to connect and to bond with new people essentially. All right, so today, just to hit right into it, we'll be talking on the power of planning. And I know that a lot of people have asked questions around and, to the Echo Innovation team, just trying to understand how they can put together a solid business plan that works, one that helps them win, one that helps them also chart out the course for the next 5, 10, 15 years of their business's existence. And that is what we're going to be doing today. right? I'll be sharing from my knowledge of experience, and experience, but feel free to, in the comment section, just write out any thoughts that you have, what your experiences have been, and any questions that are also on your mind. And we will do the best that we can. Between Doja and myself, we'll do the best that we can to answer those questions, yeah? Okay. I have here quite quickly a small quote that I just thought to put here because I thought it was important, just to capture the essence of how important planning really is. And it says here by Yogi Berra. I don't know if you've heard of Yogi Berra. He's a very popular footballer in the US who says if you don't know where you're going, you'll end up someplace else. And I just thought how apt it is that we have that kind of quote to define the importance of planning. There's also one by Thomas Edelson here who says that good fortune is what happens when opportunity meets with planning. So if you want to be successful in life, there's a very high chance that you need to focus and need to pay key attention to planning, yeah? But to jump right into the heart of it, one of the few things, in my experience of working with people, mentoring people, or even working with businesses, one of the few things I've come to understand or come to see is that many people, when you ask them why they need a business plan, they can't quite explain that. So I've put together here 3 important questions that you need to ask yourself before you set out to either put your idea on paper or to put a team together to help you achieve that dream. Yeah, and the first one is, why do I need a business plan? Yusuf, hello Yusuf, thank you for joining us as well. Why do I need a business plan? I could answer it from a broader perspective, or to give a high-level overview as to why we need a business plan. First things first, it helps you chart out what your business would look like. And it gives you a clearer vision of what you plan to do as an entrepreneur or as a person who's deciding to pursue that idea. Yeah. So writing out a business plan is usually the first step in achieving your goal as a person, as an individual, and then as a business, owner who's looking to, drive the business or drive that enterprise forward. The next question you also need to ask yourself is, what resources do I need to actualize my business plan? We have a lot of ideas popping up every single day, and people are constantly trying to create new solutions to the problems they see around them. But it usually helps when you have a thorough understanding of the resources you need to actualize that business plan. And we'll talk about it in further detail as we go along in the webinar. And finally, one of the other key questions you need to ask yourself is, what are the key winning ingredients that you need to include in your business plan to make it a success? Yeah, not every business plan is set in stone or is made for gold. But if you have a key winning ingredient in your business plan, and if you follow the map and you follow the strategies laid out to help you achieve success in your business plan, there is a higher chance that your idea will thrive for the longer period. Now, I've just put together some key facts here. And this is, I tend to have a bit of OCD when it comes to numbers, and I think that numbers tend to drive any activity or any company or enterprise. So I just put together some key facts and key numbers that you need to take into consideration when that idea comes into your head. Yeah, and as I said before, there are business ideas that are popping up every single day. Your idea is not the most important business idea out there. As a matter of fact, the idea that pops in your head most likely has popped in the heads of 1,000 other people within the time frame that you got it. It's the difference between your idea and the idea that other people have is what you do with it and how you execute it, as well as the plan that you put in place to make it work. Here we see here that there are over 657 business ideas that are registered globally, and this is the one that are registered. Now, when you factor in the unregistered business ideas or the unregistered enterprises that you have around Nigeria, for example, or Africa, other parts of the world, you see that your idea or your business is competing with a large number of people. And you have to do the homework and the groundwork to set yourself apart from the crowd so that you have a higher chance of succeeding. Looking at the Nigerian context here, we see that there, according to the Corporate Affairs Commission, there are 86,000 businesses on average that are registered every year. and many of them cut across different industries. So far, there are 3.4 million registered companies in existence. What sets your own idea or your business apart from these 3.4 million enterprises and businesses that are in existence? How are you going to differentiate yourself? What unique selling proposition are you going to have or put in place to set you apart from everybody else that's in the market? Yeah. Right now, the World Bank says that there are 130 other countries that are better than Nigeria and easier to do business in Nigeria than Nigeria. If you're looking to set up that business or that business idea in Nigeria, how do you position yourself in view of your existing market to make sure that that you're able to thrive, even though there are 130 other places in the world that you could have chosen? You chose Nigeria to do that business. How can you make sure that your business or your enterprise is going to thrive in this existing market? Yeah, and then also factor in other external indices like your taxes and the cost of doing business. Right now, the gross national income per capita for doing business is 26%. This means that if you look at your revenue for the next 1 year, there is a very high chance that over 20% of the amount of money you will generate, you will spend in the first few weeks or the first few months of setting up, just to make sure that your business is fully functional and is thriving. Yeah, it's just so that you have a key understanding of what it's like to, or what you need to consider when putting a business plan or when putting a business idea on the road before you start to write a business plan. This gives you a fair view. Now, if you go back to the first few slides I shared, one of the things I put out there for you to consider is to ask yourself an honest question about why you need a business plan. Now, from a broader perspective, people write out their business plans either to get funding. So, for example, for the techies and for the startups, or even for the MSMEs, why this essentially creates a business plan is because they want to find funding. Whether it's funding through a bank loan or it's funding through an accelerator, such as Echo Innovates is doing right now, or funding through any of the external investor options that are available. Whether it's your family and friends, whether it's, as they say, quote and unquote, the fools out there, which that's the word I don't like to use. But if it's a fool out there, or some other financial institution that is willing to give you money, how are you going to get them interested in your business without a business plan? That's one of the key reasons why you need a business plan. If you're going to approach a bank, chances are very high that the bank will want to see some proof or some evidence to show that you're able to return the money that they have given you with some level of interest on top. And if you can't present that in paper format or in clear written format, chances are also very high that the banks are going to tell you no. And so if you want to set out get a loan, putting a business plan in place is also a key reason why you should do, or a key necessity to be able to do that. Number 3 is also your roadmap. Understanding where your business will be in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years is very necessary with the help of a business plan. Your business plan is kind of like a trajectory. It's an insight into the future of your organization, of the organization you're looking to build. And it helps you understand or lay out the metrics that you're going to have to meet to be able to get to where it is you want to get to. Yeah? Once you have written out, or clarified with yourself why you need a business plan, some of the key things that you need to start thinking about are the resources to help you actualize your business plan. Now, we cannot overemphasize the need for people. One of your most important assets in life generally will be people. You will need people to help you drive your vision to fruition. You will need people to help you work within the business. You will need people to help sell your business. You will need people to help buy your business. So people are very important. Without people, you almost don't have a business, because you won't be selling to tables and chairs. You'll be selling to individuals who will need to exchange value and cash for the product or services that you'll be offering. Yeah. The second thing as well is your skill set. For you to achieve that business plan or that business idea or that business objective, you need to start thinking about the skill sets that you must acquire to enable you thrive in that industry, that sector, or on that business it is that you've got in mind. So if it's a business around tech, or if it's an idea around tech, what are the core competencies that you need? You will need managerial skills. You will need leadership skills, more importantly than anything else. You will need financial knowledge and financial skills so that you can speak to your accountant if you're going to get an external accountant, or if it's the inception phases of your business, you will need financial skills to be able to manage your books and manage your internal expenses, your cash flow, your balance sheet, your profit and loss. You will need those kind of skills. You will need funding. Not all the time will you need large sizes of funding, but even if it's a little amount of money to start up, you will need some sort of funding, and you have to put those considerations in place. You will need an understanding of your markets. You will need to know if there is an existing competition in your market or if there isn't. If there's an existing competition in your market, where are they? What are they doing? How are they doing what they're doing? And how are they winning? If there is no competition in your market, then you will need to figure out how you're going to have to create that new market and how you're going to position yourself as a leader within that space. And finally, but also very importantly, is goodwill. Many people do not factor in goodwill when they're thinking about resources, but you will need to draw on the goodwill, on the well wishes, quote and unquote, if you're using the Nigerian parlance, and the kindness, sort of, as well as the good intentions of other people, because these are people who will serve as your ambassadors. You will need goodwill to be able to drive your business idea forward. Moving along, we're going to start right into it, or jump right into the heart of it, and discuss the winning ingredients for a successful business plan. Now, I know that there are many templates out there for people to create business plans, but when you understand what the basics are, you can then lay the foundation of your business and how that business is going to thrive. And that will serve as the map for where that business is going to get to. First things first, you need in your business plan is an executive summary usually. Now, I like to call the executive summary the blueprints, the synopsis of your entire business plan. It gives you a general overview of that business. In your executive summary, which really should be a short description of what the business is about, what kind of problem it's going to solve, where the market or where you'll be selling, who you'll be selling to, how you'll be selling to them, how you'll be connecting with them, all the key factors around how the business will operate. Do you need any technology, in-house technology expertise? Do you need any machinery to get? All of the key risks that you need to consider. Here you need to think about your pest analysis, whether it's political, environmental, social, or technological. You need to think about all the key considerations. Are there any government incentives that are available for your sector? If you're in agriculture, do you need to think about the BOI, Bank of Industry loans that are available? If you're doing, for example, I know that the CBN just gave out 50 billion to MSMEs to disburse for their startup and for innovations, particularly post-coronavirus. If all of these things are factors that you will encounter in achieving your business idea, you will need to write them out in a short context in your executive summary, as well as your financials and also your future projections. Once you have written out your executive summary, the next thing you need to think about and write out in detail, is the problem that you're trying to solve. If you're going to approach a bank, one of the first things they'll ask you is, Madam or Oga, this thing that you are asking for a loan for, how many people have done it before you? Yeah? And why is your own different? And what is the chance that when we give you this money, that it's going to yield any return on investment? And then you also need to map out what the solution to that problem will be. Putting it in a detailed format also gives you a sense of clarity. It helps you define in clear context what it is you're trying to do and why it is you're doing what it is you're doing and how it is you're going to help the people or provide that solution to the people that it is you're going to provide it to. Number two, right after you have defined the problem and the solution, is to figure out the product and the service. You should write out in detail what kind of product it is. If you're going to be making mobile devices, write out in detail why that device is different from every other device in the market. If it's a service in consulting, why your consulting business is different from every other one in the market. Once you're able to capture your problem and your product or service, as well as the solutions, then you can start to move on to the next section. Other key considerations, usually when writing out your business plan, is to figure out your target market and who the competition is. Remember, I said before that your target market, when defining your target market, you need to know who you're selling to. Now, from a marketing perspective, there's something we call the consumer persona or the buyer persona. Your buyer persona is essentially your ideal customer. What is their age? What is their gender? What location are they in? How much are they going to spend on the product? How much do these people earn on a daily basis? Or how much is their monthly take-home package? Because that helps you identify or define how you're going to price your product and service to sell. Yeah? So figure out who your target market is, and then define if there is anybody else who is in that industry or that space who is offering the same service that you are. These are key ingredients in your business plan. Once you have done all of this, if you find that there is nothing unique about your product and service, immediately in writing out your business plan, start factoring in what unique selling proposition it is that your business or service or product will offer to the customer. That way you're able to have competitive advantage over others in the market. Yeah? And then once you have your target market done, you then start to map out your roadmap to profitability. So, as I said before, you need to figure out your customers, what they are like and who they are like. And the reason why you're doing it is because of positioning. If I go back to my years as a journalist, there's something, or even in business, there's something in business they say that is the 5 W's and H. Yeah? In your 5 W's and H, you need to figure out what the business is about, why the business is in existence, where it is you will sell, how you will sell, and why you're selling, and at what price point you're selling it. Position it properly, whether it's a premium service, if it's a luxury good, then you would create something for people within that space. So if it's for something for people who earn millions on a regular basis, you would price accordingly for that. If it's something that's supposed to be mass market, you will position your business or your product and service as a mass market product. And then you will start to communicate and promote your service to people within that mass market space. The pricing as well for that will also be defined in the segment. You need to break down in clear details. If it's 500 naira for a biro that you'll be selling, you need to define clearly why you are selling it at 500 naira. What the cost of production, if it's a product, what the cost of production at 500 naira would be. So if you're selling at 500 naira, is your cost going to be 40% of your entire revenue? And then does that mean that you're going to earn a profit margin of 60%? If it's going to be 60%, have you factored in the cost of advertising? Have you factored in the cost of distribution? Have you factored in the cost of legal? Have you factored in all the variable costs that can come into it? Figure out all of that and then define the channels through which you're going to use to communicate. After you have done your marketing and sales blueprints, you then start to ask yourself the operations and the risk questions. How am I going to build or create this product? If it's a service that you're doing, because with a service business, it's a little different from a product type of business. If it's a service, are you going to have to rent office space? And if you're renting an office space, what is the system in place that you have? Are you going to work remotely now that we have coronavirus and people are working from their houses? Are you going to have to set up meetings with your clients over the internet? If that is something you're going to have to take into consideration, put out a system in place or a structure in place that defines whether you're going to be spending money on internet service. How much will you be spending on internet service? How many meetings will you be having a week with your clients? And all of those things. What are the risks to consider? You said at the start of this our webinar, we had some risks that we encountered. And I don't know if you noticed it. We had some technological risks. For example, you could decide to start at a particular time and the internet connection will not work. Or for example, you may decide to start at a particular time and you know that your client is in another time zone, maybe they're in the US or in the UK, and you've got that time difference to consider, and technology can also be a key factor. If it's a government-related factor, if you're into transportation, for example, and maybe you're doing a service like Uber or Bolt or Oga Taxi or one of the others, and you want to run that kind of ride-hailing service, the risk could be the omoniles on the street. For our international audience who don't understand what omonile means, it could even be things around legal considerations around the transport service within your community. And the police, for example, could be a risk factor. When you're going to ride at what particular time of the day, are you going to be allowed to move at a particular time? Coronavirus itself is a risk that we've had to encounter. Many businesses are now thinking of the health implications of people moving around and their employees moving around and being able to be catered so that they are applying the tenets of HSC, which is health and safety, health and safety requirements to their customers or to their clients. All those risks, you need to think about them because they expose, they help you identify, they expose the business and help you identify ways that you can mitigate, those risks from occurring. Yeah. And then also we've got financial considerations. Now, usually for most investors, this is the part of your business plan that will take up the most of your work. For many business plans, it can go from as much as 10 pages to 50 pages, depending on what it is you're looking to do. And your financials need to capture not just in written text, but in very detailed formats, what your forecast will be. We talked earlier, I remember, about the cost of production or the cost of setup. You also need to be able to factor in what your expected revenue will be. What will be your cash flow? If you're going to be setting up an NGO for those who are doing non-profit, those who are thinking of not generating, running a profit-based business, you need to figure out for that NGO to survive, how are you going to keep it afloat? Are you going to have to seek funding from charities and from other people who will support the business or support the NGO? How are you going to keep it afloat? Because at the end of the day, they say that businesses are in business to make profit. So are NGOs in a certain sense, because you have to be able to pay the people who work for you and you have to be able to keep the lights on. Yeah. You also need to put together your balance sheet. What does your balance sheet look like? What will it look like in 10 years? What will it look like in 2 years? What will it look like in 5 years? In 3 years' time, which really is the time frame that many businesses are given to survive. That's the time frame for a business to either survive or die, because business is a continuum. What would it look like in 3 years? And what steps will you have in 3 years, or we put rather in your business plan to ensure that you're surviving and thriving and meeting the KPIs that you put in place for that idea or that organization to thrive? And then you also need to have your profit and loss accounts also quite clearly detailed. If you're going to seek investment, it's also quite important that you put together the LTV, what we call the lifetime value, as well as your customer acquisition cost and your exit strategy. If a person is putting money into your business, chances are they're going to start thinking of ways to pull out money from that business. If you don't have an exit strategy, the investors are going to ask you, how do I get my money back? You need to be able to define that clearly for the investor and show that it's a viable or a profitable investment for them to make. And then once you have that done, we then go to your roadmap. Yeah, the roadmap should tell you what and how you're going to get to where it is you're going to get to. Yeah, and clearly define that for you. You should also factor in who your team members will be and what kind of team it is you're looking to build, as well as your succession plan. If you're planning to run the business for 50 years and hand it over to somebody else, you should have a succession plan in place, and that should be captured in your business plan. If you're planning to stay in the business and keep it a family business, all of those things should be quite clearly detailed. I've been rambling for quite a long time. I don't know if I captured everything that I should have. I see Don just smiling.
It's definitely not rambling. Thank you for that content. It's very well summarized. There's no doubt about it. And you have given us the umbrella topics that we have to think about, and even some tangible examples. I think that when we go through the questions, of course, it will have each of us an opportunity to even tell our stories, our experiences in building business plans. And sometimes we have made mistakes. It's not a big deal. These things happen, right? But they say fail fast, right? And you rise quickly and recover and move on. Now, guys, we're going to start to take on the questions. There's already a question in the chat box. Guys, start to feel free to put in your questions. Don't you worry, the presentation and the video will be available on EcoEye Center/webinar. This webinar is going to be there. All the past ones also will be there. I encourage you to listen to the ones that have been on finance, because I'm sure there will be a lot of questions here on finance, financial planning and forecasting. There's one webinar in there, or there are 2 webinars in there about finance. You can feel free to check it out. So I'm going to take the first question before I go into the verbal ones. Again, if you want to ask a verbal question, just raise your hand and we'll unmute you. Which is way which way is most proper to write a plan? Starting with the summary or writing the entire plan, then summarizing it in the executive summary? That's the first question. The second question is, how do you write a financial projection without hiring an accountant to assist? Are there templates to make this simplified? I think, Rita, you take the first one. I'll be happy to take the second one.
Okay, all right, great. So to answer the first question, it's quite important that you write out your business plan first before you write your executive summary, because your executive summary will also contain key ingredients of your business plan. It's almost like writing your project in university. If you're going to write out your summary comes after you have written out the project, because the summary is essentially just capturing the essence of everything you have written in that material. Same thing with your business plan. Your executive summary, remember we said that earlier, if I'm still sharing my screen, if you permit me to go to the top here, we talked about your executive summary containing the problem and solution, target market, marketing and sales, operational risk, and financials, as well as your future roadmap. All of these things will be embedded in the document, the core of the document itself. It is after you have done the real work, you then come back to the beginning and say, this is what my business is about in a nutshell. And then you capture that in a one-pager. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thanks, Rita. So about financial projection, I would tell you for free that that is the most important part of your business plan, right? Because finally, your business is set up to do only three things: make money, save money, and grow the business. Money, money, money. Now, your financial projection, right or wrong, valid fact and valid thoughts put through, is going to determine whether you're going to get funds or not. Last week, we learned that there are four F's where you get money, right? There's family, there's friends, in fact, we even said that there's foes, there's the founder himself, and then, of course, there are the funders. And the funders will be venture capitalists or any other, or investors and the rest. What are they most interested in? Even for you as an individual, if you want to put your 1,000 naira into any business, what are you thinking about? What is my return? What is in it for me? So without a robust financial plan, of course, depending on the size of investment, if you're asking for 10,000 naira, is different from if you're asking for 10 million naira. Depending on the size of the business, you need to get professionals to help you build a proper and convincing financial plan that also is as close to reality as possible. They say that we look back to look forward. So, okay, you're going to look back at trends within that market, within that industry, within that business. But you'd also make a projection and a forecast. What are the data points that you use to make the forecast? Do you have experts who can bring in those data points? Potentially so, right? If the risk is minimal, then yes, you can do some level of bottom-up research. And I'll share with you some experience that I've had on bottom-up research. So I am very vast in food, in FMCG. That's where I've spent the most of my career. And sometimes all you have to do is go to the stores, stay on the aisle of the category that you are thinking of innovating in. Let's say you are thinking of innovating in biscuits. Stay in that biscuit aisle and start to ask questions. That's bottom-up research already. And depending on who you are targeting, because Rita talked about buyer persona, depending on who you are targeting, you will go to the profile of stores that those buyers would ordinarily go to. So if you are targeting the top of the pyramid, of course, you will go to ShopRite and those kinds of stores. If you are targeting mainstream, you probably have to visit neighborhood stores, neighborhood supermarkets, superettes, and the things like that. You start to ask questions. What volume what quantity do they buy? How much do they buy? How much are they willing to pay? You start to use those data points to create your own forecast. Of course, if you're investing a lot, and I keep saying if you're investing a lot behind that business, means that the risk is higher, means that actually you have to use money to make money. Get the experts to help you do it. So that's my response. We are going, let me go into the voice rooms. Any hands raised? Oh, yes. Oh, Stewart, you're here. I'm asking to mute. Please accept.
Yes, good evening, ma.
Good evening. How are you? Good to see you again.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I have a question. My question is basically on the lifetime value. Like, I would like you to explain a little bit on what that means. For example, for a tech product, just you can imagine, let's say an e-commerce site like Jumia, but for a specific value, for a specific product. So we have a product like that we're about to launch. We're at the investment seeking stage, but we have a business plan and all that. But I don't think I included anything like the lifetime value. I've never used it before. I don't know how to capture that in. How do I capture the lifetime value for a product like that? Thank you so much, man. Thank you.
Welcome. Lisa, over to you.
Okay, so the lifetime value of is usually customer based, yeah, and essentially it's the amount or the amount of engagement as well as value that customer you've been able to derive from that particular customer, how long that customer has stayed with you, and what kind of value it is you've been able to extract from that relationship. Yeah. So for example, for your product which you're looking to get seek funding or get investment for, it would be putting in clear details what the customer, who the customer is, the funnel through which you have reached the customer, how much that customer has spent. Yeah, there's actually a method to calculate this. How much the customer has spent and how much that customer has spent on a repeated basis. How frequently that customer has spent it, and whether there's a chance that the customer is going to be there for a particular period of time. So whether it's 6 months, this customer has been with your business for 6 months, or they've been with your business for 1 year, or they've been with your business for 10 years, 15 years, XYZ. Yeah. Using all of those metrics, you're able to calculate the lifetime value of that customer, as well as of the service or the product it is that you're giving to the market. But if you want further information on it, I'm happy to have a discussion with you later, and we can talk through how that would work.
Excellent. Thanks. There are 2 more questions on the raising hand. Once I take those 2, Ime Joseph and Adewale Adebola, and then we'll go into the group chat to ask the questions.
Good evening.
Good evening, Ime.
Are you here? Yeah. Well, first and foremost, this is a very, very wonderful presentation, but I want to find out because basically the industry I mean is kind of evolving. And most of us build our whatever we are trying to build, or what I'm trying to build is based on, I mean, the creative industry, particularly digital creatives. And we are trying to build. You are trying to build like a company that or a startup that doesn't fully exist because we are still involved. We're still trying to understand the market. How does one? Because what you said about financials, I've had a problem about building a business plan, and I say that's really where my main wahala is, because the prices are not really stable. You know, sometimes you want to do something for someone, and the person you have to negotiate, and they just agree because you want, you know. So there's no real. The industry does not have a stable price, so you just take it because you want to agree because you're trying to build a portfolio. But I've come to realize that if you're seeking funding for whatever idea I have, whatever, that's the key issue. So how do we find out a good? How do we get? Pardon me, I don't know the terminologies, but how do you get, for instance, the pricing of want to let's say like where I'm into? I mean, the animation industry. And animation is still it's not as big as how it is yet in Nigeria. So, and a lot of us are just creative. We are just raw creative. We just learned it on our own for the passion of it. So to get the pricing is always a problem. Sometimes you give somebody a job and just because you just want to make sure that you build a portfolio so that I can. So I just want to find out how does one do get a pricing structure so that you can find out the correct price so they can present to investors in situations like this. I don't know whether I've been able to communicate.
It's clear. Thanks. I think we got it. Rita, just tell me you got it, which is about how do I determine my pricing?
My pricing,
especially for an intangible service and one that does not have strong penetration yet.
Yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned that it doesn't have strong penetration yet, but you have contemporaries who are doing that same thing across the world. How much are they charging? That's one of the ways to find out what your pricing can be. How much are they charging? If you figure out how much they're charging relative to their currency, you can set up an industry average. You can be the benchmark and set up an industry average for yourself, or set up a pricing average for yourself and say, this is what my contemporaries abroad are charging. This is what I determine to be fair value for my time, my energy, and my resources. Yeah, particularly for those within the creative or consulting space, it's usually about placing a value on the products or services that you're going to be delivering. So look at your contemporaries in other markets, mirror their situation here, and then set a base, saying that I'm going to spend XYZ amount of money to be able to deliver this result, then put a profit markup on it. So if you're going to spend 20,000 naira, say 5,000 naira in transportation, 2,000 naira in studio, hiring a studio, or in maybe getting internet because you're an animator and you do animations, 2,000 naira in getting internet service for the period of time. How much is it the cost of depreciation on your laptop, for example? You bought the laptop for say 120,000 naira or 150,000 naira. Once you figure out all of those mathematics, you then put up a 20% or a 10% profit margin. You can even go as high as 50%. You're the one who owns your price. As long as you're not pricing yourself out of the market. And then you set an average and say, this is what I am going to charge. And you present that in your business plan with the help of support from experts who can help guide, the proper, presentation of that section. But that's actually how you determine your pricing. Look at your global contemporaries. Look at the resources it is that you have invested in putting that resource to use or achieving that result. Then you put a profit margin, a slight profit margin on it, which you can then scale as demand for your service starts to increase. But that's how you set your pricing.
Yeah, you make a good point. So there's the point on benchmarking globally, also benchmarking locally, because definitely, you're not the only one running animations locally. There are still others who are running it, so you can benchmark. And you can do a bottom-up costing, which is bringing in all your cost elements, including your the intellectual work that you put in. You put a value to it in order to price. But then again, one thing that I see, and this is a very, very basic guidance, is that when it comes to services, charge how much you believe it is worth. So you believe it's worth 1 million, charge 1 million. Then you can say, okay, I give you 50% discount. And this is how much it is. So that your base fee, you are not devaluing yourself. When that industry becomes on a strong acceleration, you also are not on the losing or on the back foot. The other thing is, for the industry in and of itself, how do you bring expertise? Will you be the expert? You be the reference for quality in animation. And when you compare the animations that are done locally, the fluidity of the movements and the rest, there's still a whole lot. There's still a big gap between that, what we do locally, and what is available in the global world. So, we have to enhance the quality of our industry in order to up the value and make people willing to pay what we want to charge for it. That will be my 2 cents. I'm going to unmute Adewale now. After Adewale, we're going to go straight into the chat box. Adewale, would you accept my request to unmute, please?
Yeah, am I on?
Yes, you are. Good evening.
Okay, good. Wonderful presentation. A quick one. Please, what's the basic difference between a feasibility study report and a business plan? Just because it's kind of confusing. I mix up the two. So what's the basic difference between them? Thank you.
So, hi Adewale, thanks for that question. I think that's a very powerful question you've asked because a lot of people tend to mix it up. Your business plan details is a plan. That's essentially what it is. It's a plan. It helps you, it's a roadmap that helps you define where it is you're going to. Feasibility study, as the word defines, feasible studies, essentially just is an assessment of the business or of the environment in which it's operating in. Yeah, that's what a feasibility study is. It's a current assessment of the business and the environment in which it's operating. Your business plan is futuristic. It's a roadmap that's defining where you are right now, the resources you have, and where you are going to go to, or where you're looking to get to. Those are the two key differences between both. But it's very easy to mix it up. However, if you're quite the expert, you will know what it is you're looking for and how to define both of them.
So Sandra is asking, I'm trying to start a business of agricultural processing. I have all the idea clear, but I'm struggling on how to go about a business plan.
Hi, Sandra. All of us have been in that shoe before. I'm sure even Dodja, who is smiling, has been there before. Yeah, so Sandra, you're not alone. We all go through it. Sometimes I get exhausted myself. But here's the thing: it's not that complicated. Yeah, you can actually start with a simple sheet of paper. And in clear terms, since it's clear in your mind, start with writing it out. That idea you have in your mind, start with writing it out. And then, as we've explained earlier in the course of our discussion here, just as much as you can, try to detail each of these single steps that we've written out here. So you define the problem, figure out the target market, lay out the structure for the team if you're going to have a team, your sales, marketing, operational, and financials. There are templates all over the internet. You can just Google a business plan template and just fill in the blanks. That way, you'll be able to capture at least the very foundation of your business plan for that idea that you have in mind.
Spot on, actually. Sometimes when we think of business plan and we're like, ooh. In fact, let me tell you, how did we come about this topic? Last week, after we talked about funding and, making your project bankable and the rest, then we had a quick poll and asked, what subject would you like to hear next? And by far, everyone talked about business planning. And indeed, Sandra, we had made it so big in our heads that, somehow there's just a barrier between us and this famous plan. Take these topics, right? You can even stick them up on your wall and just start writing under each one. What's the problem? There's no food, or, there's poor quality food, or, processing is always done abroad. Nobody's processing locally. Who are you targeting? Industries, and you even put the names of the companies that you're already thinking are using your kind of processes. Let's say you're processing cocoa or processing coffee. Who are those companies that use it? Just put those ones down. Competition, who is currently doing it? And how much are they doing it? Don't write long sentences, just words. By the time you finish the mapping, and you just keep tossing your idea there, and don't feel that you have to finish everything in one day. It will take you a week, it will take you 2, which is fine. The power of planning, and if you plan thoroughly, remember what we said at the beginning, it is better to measure 7 times and cut once. Imagine if you're a tailor or a carpenter. You measure 7 times to make sure you get that accuracy in your planning, so that you can cut only once and you get it right when you're executing. That's the long and short of it. So really, don't think about it as a big thing. Break it down into chunks and keep throwing your ideas into it. When you finish, you start to then, substitute, eliminate before you bring everything together. Before you know it, actually, you have your plan. The one thing that sometimes we don't want to do, we don't want to share it. We don't want to bounce off ideas because we're feeling like, hey, somebody is going to steal my idea. But somewhere along the line, you have no choice but to share. The key, what we will ask is look for trusted people and look for kind of your buyer persona. That's the best thing, because you are starting to see, does this plan make meaning to my target audience? Then you are sense checking your plan.
Absolutely. Well said, Dodja.
Thank you. I want to make a request to include a business plan template in the presentation before you upload the presentation. That's the request. When starting with personal funds, I've moved to a different question. When starting with personal funds, or savings? Is a professional needed to create the financial forecasts? Isn't that incurring costs before you fully take off? How can one strike a balance between initial costs and effective planning?
That's a loaded question. We need to break that question into segments, so that we can quite capture it. But starting from the beginning, if you're starting with personal funds and your funds are immense, so if you've got a business idea and you've got, 100 million in your bank account, please feel free to hire an accountant who can do it for maybe 100K or 500,000. It's fine. Particularly if you're very busy and you don't have time for all of that, feel free to do it and they'll do a very detailed job for you. But if you're starting a business and you've got maybe 50,000 in the bank, or even 20,000 or 200,000 naira, then I think it would behoove wisdom to just see how you can, as much as possible, sit with your computer or your pen and paper and write out the first blueprint for what your financial forecast will be yourself. This way you're not spending money, scarce resources on an activity that when you eventually grow, you will still be able to hire someone to do key numbers for you for. So manage your resources effectively, focus on the things that are important, write out the business plan with the resources that you have available, and use, as I've said before, I'm an advocate of Google. Google is your friend. Use Google as much as you can for the things that you don't understand. Google financial templates. I'm sure we'll add some, Eco-Innovation will be happy to add some here outside the course so that you can just input some sections that you think are necessary for your financial model and you have something to use. But be careful when you're using your personal funding unless you have a lot so that you can use that money for other things eventually. Yeah?
Thank you, Rita. Question is, what is at risk? Right? Because is it 100 million or 100,000?
100 million.
What is that risk? Okay, so Dupe is asking for a techie mindset who has limited or no skills in planning. Where do you find the resources to help you draw up the business plan? And in doing so, how do I protect my intellectual property?
Powerful question. So first things first, I would like to say that I think almost everybody has the ability to plan. If you wake up every day and you figure out in your head what you're going to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you have planned your day, your meals already. So if it's breakfast for rice or bread, beans for lunch, and then something else for dinner, that's a plan. It just depends on what kind of plan it is. It's the same thing with business, So if you figure out, if you're, for example, planning to sell books and you are trying to figure out how you're going to sell it, just by saying that I've identified that people in my community they don't have good books to buy, or that there are schools in my community that don't have branded books, and I would like to create branded books for those people in that community, and I would like to sell it at 500 naira per copy or at 100 naira per copy, and I would like to supply it on Mondays, etc. You've already created a mini structure and a mini plan, But in the instance that you think it's a lot of burden to want to do all that work, as we said earlier, there are existing templates that you can use, or if you're on your screen, you can just screen grab my screen right here. Screen grab the screen right here, where it just details some of the key sections or key components that you should have on your business plan, and then try to fill those different sections in the manner you're able to, and that would be the guide that you have, or the roadmap that you have to first setting up the foundation of a proper business plan.
Dupe as well, please go to EcoI Center /webinar. You would see a whole webinar on protecting intellectual property, especially when you are in idea stage. There are lots of guidance there. We had a legal expert, she's an IP expert, and she was guiding us on how to protect our intellectual property, particularly when it comes to sharing it with third-party investors or as you may have it. Now,
sorry, George, I just wanted to quickly say thank you for even, because the intellectual property thing just skipped my mind. For Dupe. It's also important for your intellectual property, because I know you mentioned that from a core, it's a pain for many entrepreneurs. And I've lived through that myself, yeah, where an idea just flies off your head and you see it in somebody else's pocket the next day. But not to worry, it happens. But get smarter. Get a proper SLA and an NDA agreement put in place for every external party it is that you want to share an idea with, or you want to share your business plan or business project with. Yeah, particularly if they're going to be an integral part of it. Some investors may throw away your NDA because they're asking you why do they want, but at least have that in place. Get an NDA in place for that business idea to protect that intellectual property that you have. If you don't know how, a non-disclosure agreement, yeah, that helps seal, whatever it is that you're sharing with the next person, so that in the instance that you see it flying on their table or on their bucket the next day, at least you have something to be able to call them back to reference. Yeah, so try to have that in place. It helps guide. Guide business processes. That's what I would say to that.
Very true. The audience is asking, funders generally request for assurances that the startup will be operational and in existence into the foreseeable future. Where in your business plan and how should you reflect that the new company will be a going concern?
So I think we need to maybe rephrase that question. Are you asking if, how you can showcase to your funders that the business will be a going concern? If that's the question that you're asking, and Doja, please feel free to chip in here. If that's the question that you're asking, then all the things that we've said previously are the answers to that. Yeah, because by the time you have detailed the roadmap of your business, your financial forecast, your expected revenue, your sales projections, your balance sheet, your cash flow, your team structure, your organogram, how many people are going to work within the company, your operational structure, what kind of system are you going to have in place? Are you going to be paying rent? Are you going to be working remotely? Are you going to be working with machinery or not? Are you going to be working within a particular location? Are you going to have people moving around? Are you going to have an existing target market that is localized, or is a target? By the time you answer all of those questions, it helps the funder to see that this person knows the business, as well as it helps them to understand or see what the projections will be. At what rate will it be growing? 10%, 5%, 20% per year, per annum, per quarter, and they're able to then have enough more confidence to put in their money there. It also will help if you're able to put in a very clear exit strategy for the investor. If I am an investor and I'm giving you 5 million naira, I want to know how I'm going to get 15% on my 5 million naira within X amount of time. So you need to show that to the investor so that they're able to have some level of confidence and trust, with you and with the business. And then in the instance that you get kicked out of the company or you decide that you want to pivot and move into another venture, your business plan is to show that there is someone within your team who can take over from you. Either a COO, a vice president, an assistant, or someone who is willing to take over from you. And that person needs to be able to have the competence, skills, and capacities that you have, or you detail in your business plan the growth plan that you have for that person. So the person needs to be able to either have taken leadership courses, be able to have managed some members of their team effectively, etc., etc. That way you're able to forecast and show clearly that the business will be a going concern even with your departure or with that investor's departure. So exit goes both ways, both for the investor and for you as the founder.
The founder, indeed. The popular saying in finance that turnover is vanity, profit is sanity.
Yeah.
Reality.
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 It's king.
Right? Exactly. So how do you make it clear to investors that you retain a strong cash flow? What is the investor interested in the most? Future earnings. Mm-hmm. What is the future going to look like? And the future starts from tomorrow, right? And of course, he's looking at your capacity, your experience in that field, your knowledge and competence, but most importantly, good governance. What governance are you putting in place for that business to ensure that this is run as an entity? Some examples have been given in our past webinars of founders or entrepreneurs who their bank account is the same as the business bank account. So the card, the credit card or the debit card of the company is the same one they use to buy whatever, a dress in a shop or whatever it is. Now, of course, that's horrible governance. So what kinds of structures have you put in place in your organization that makes for transparency, that also makes for audits, right? So all of those things put together, including what Rita has said, actually build investor confidence, but demonstrate future earnings, extremely critical. We're going to wrap up just about now. Adeolu Prince has asked the last question, so that's going to be the last question. Right after this, we're going to take our poll. I have a business whose idea is novel. I submitted to an investor for an investment opportunity. They denied me the grant and ended up executing my own idea exactly. What step can I take?
You can, in that instance, you can seek legal redress. You know, you can talk, if you're interested in going that route, you can seek legal redress. But you would have to prove, that's another thing, you would have to prove that the investor you gave it to did not have that idea before you presented it to them. Because that's going to be a key consideration. Either that, or you seek legal redress, or you simply just move on. Yeah? Or you move on and you try to get another idea. But in that instance, it's a breach of confidence. If it's proven that the investor took your idea and ran with it, it's a breach of confidence, it's a breach of contract, and it also speaks on the integrity. You shouldn't even be happy that that investor did not even invest in your business anyway, and try, part ways with the person, because it shows their character as a person, and that's not something you want to be associated with. But really, it speaks about a lot more about the investor, and if you can't seek redress and pursue it. But if it's not something you're willing to, because it can be a battle, you're willing to go through, then you can just move on and pursue other interests.
Yeah, that's true. It further highlights what you said about an NDA, the non-disclosure, and as much as is possible, we should get those non-disclosure signed. We should, somehow we need professionals. I know we run away from the cost and we worry about the cost of those professionals, but then at the risk of losing your entire business or your idea, then of course looking back, you would have rather have had the professional, had your, whether it's a patent or any form of documentation to demonstrate that you own this idea, so that when these kinds of things happen, the burden of proof is on you. You now have to be the one to prove that this was uniquely your idea and nobody else had it, and the investor stole yours, which may be difficult at this point because maybe there's documentation and the rest. So I mean, as a learning for us all on the call, let's try to pre-protect, if there's anything like that, pre-protect ourselves, our businesses, our ideas, before we go all out. Unfortunately, you can't hide everything forever. You will need help. You will need to bounce off ideas, with others. But then, please protect yourself. It's so important. Okay. So that's the last question, Rita. I'm going to ask you: is there anything we ought to have discussed that we have not discussed?
We captured the essence of it. There's a recurring question, a recurring theme I've noticed, and I think it's something entrepreneurs face a lot. You're always afraid that somebody's going to steal your idea. And if you notice, we've had that come up. What happens when my idea is taken away? And things. Look, as I said at the start of our discussion, the time an idea pops in your head, it's popping into 1,000 different heads. And the only difference between you and the next person, the only difference between Mark Zuckerberg and MySpace, Facebook and MySpace and all the others is execution. Proper planning and execution. So don't be too worried if your idea pops up somewhere else. If you're able to execute better and you're able to plan better, chances are that your idea will thrive. Yeah. So be calm. Don't go paranoid over your idea, just running into somebody else's books. Be calm, take it easy, and know that this journey is for the long haul. Yeah, and you will be fine. Essentially, at the end of the day.
Okay, so can we put up the poll, please? Rita, thanks a big bunch. Thank you so much. I know this came at very, very short notice. We really appreciate the content that you have brought. We appreciate the knowledge. We also appreciate your enthusiasm. Your passion is quite strong. Thank you very much for this.
You're welcome.
For all our participants, we really appreciate you. I see, names that I see consistently week after week. It's always great to share knowledge, to share stories. Most importantly, we will be keen to hear how this is making an impact in your business, because we want that, it's that impact that we seek for. It's that impact that, makes a whole world of difference, that helps us also understand that this is making a positive move within yourself and your business. So quickly about next week, an amazing speaker. We're going to be talking about your transition from an employee to an entrepreneur. So this guy has spent about 25 years in a corporate, in a multinational, worked in different parts of the world, and then suddenly 5 years ago decided to go into entrepreneurship. Way over 40, so age was not on his side, almost already a corporate dinosaur, because all he knew how to do was to be an employee, and then moves on to entrepreneurship, and whoa, he has now made a good success of it. So for him, I mean, this gentleman is going to be joining us from Asia, from the Philippines. So it's a weird time for him, time difference. You were talking about Rita, but he's committed. It's midnight his time when it's 5 p.m. Our time, but he's committed to come and share his story, come and share his journey, because some of us today, we're not yet entrepreneurs. We want to become entrepreneurs, Some of us have even lost our jobs, unfortunately, on the basis of COVID and everything else that is happening outside. And we're being pushed into entrepreneurship because there's nothing else to do. But hey, guess what? People have been successful, even just by that alone, right? So please join at 5 p.m. Next week, Thursday, where you're going to see it as well on social media. We'll post it and you will see the ad. Join and inform your friends as well who are keen to become entrepreneurs, to come and listen to a story of someone who became one almost late age, and now he's able to make a success of it. So thank you again, Rita. Thank you again, everyone. Thank you so much to my team on the call who's managing the logistics on the back end. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate everyone. Remember, finally, action. Put what you learn, what you are learning, what you continue to learn, put it into action. Build a fantastic plan, but work on it. Make it actionable and take the action, because it's only action that can make your dream a reality. Thank you so much. All the best. Stay safe. Have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.